Kia ora tēnā koe, kei tapu hua. Ka mutu, koutou e whakarongo mai ana, e mātakitaki mai ana I tēnei terenga kōrero, terenga wānanga, e rongo ai tēnei mea te mauri o ngā mea e ki ai te tangata. He te Arawa, he Māori, he ake wene momo mea e tui ana te tuakiritanga. Nā reira, I runga noi wēnā momo whakaaro. Nau mai hara mai te rua. Tēnā kōrero mai ko ai koe, ko ai o karangatanga maha, me o whakapaparanga.
Ka pai, tēnā koe Henny Brown, o tērā tēnā rā koutou e mātaki mai ana. Ko ai tēnei, he uri no te Arawa, no tūwharetoa, me te Āti Haunui a Pāpārangi, ko te rua Wallace tōku ingoa.
So tēnā koe te rua, ko piri mai ki tēnei taumata kōrero. I want to ask you about the mahi that you do with te papa ahurewa. Can you explain to me what te papa ahurewa is, how its relevance, what do you do, and how does that apply to our hapu and iwi?
Ka pai. So te papa ahurewa was established, I think it was last year, if not the year before, and it was established between Council and Te Arawa Lakes Trust, and I realising and identifying that there was a gap in our processes and systems, and that iwi are here, Council are here, and there's no bridging between the two. So Te Papa Ahurewa was established to fill that gap, and to bring our people up and to be informing them on what's happening in councils, what's happening in legislations and policies and that are relevant to them in relation to the taiao. And so that's the mahi Te Papa Ahurewa does for our people.
And you're working on that team, obviously, and a lot of it is probably policy heavy. And fundamentally, ahua Pākehā tēnei kōrero, engari, you're a natural environmentalist. That's probably how I'd probably describe you in the role that you're doing with Te Papa Ahurewa. And you've had a bit of a journey just to even get to this point in your life, right?
Yeah,
and how did that happen?
Definitely. I think ki te whakaaro, ki taku whakatipuranga, he mea Māori te environmentalist pia. He noho Māori noa I tō ao Māori, mai te kohanga reo ki te kura kaupapa Māori, ka tūmtū mai koe, ka whakahua I tō pepeha I tō whakapapana reira, I taua wā tonu, he hononga ki te taiao. So it's not as if, picked up a book one day and became an environmentalist, but I think it's just installed in all of us, Māori, especially us who go through our kura kaupapa and our kohanga reo. You're naturally drawn to the taiao, and as we,
you have a love, but you genuinely have a love for the taiao.
Yeah, definitely.
And, we'll catch you walking on the thing. I just saw you with your water bottle, and it's not a plastic bottle. You have these sorts of fundamental principles, and if you could you explain to us what they are and how they guide you in your, I know you're saying he Māori, koe e noho nei tō ao Māori. Engari, mo te hunga ka hore pēi te mōhio. What is that made up of?
Well, for me it's simple, like I get up, ka mihia taku maunga, taku awa, and then I look at my everyday actions and it's consuming plastic, or it's giving into capitalism or into stuff that degrades those taiao spaces. So it's a conflict of te ao Māori and te ao Pākehā, I guess, and just wanting to align my practices to my kupu and making sure I walk the talk. So
and now you're in Te Papa Ahurewa, who are an environmental advocacy group who merge the gap between hapu and council. Obviously you must come across so many consents and you think, no,
absolutely.
No, yes, no, yes, no.
Absolutely, and because other people's interest in our roto are always for pūtea, no matter what they say. Some, we've even come across some people are like, yes, we want to see the betterment of our lakes as well, and we agree with you. We don't want any new structures in our lake. That's why our structure is portable. And I'm like, no, you still just missed the whole kaupapa of it, of no new lake structures. So definitely come across
shifting the thinking though. We're in a generation who are still warming towards those sort of environmental practices, thinking of the taiao in the first instance, and with an entity like Te Arawa Lakes Trust, who are responsible for, I think, 14 lakes, as a consent, is it alright to say that you're like a consenting officer?
Yeah, coordinator. Person.
Yeah, your job is to look at the impact that a new structure would have, or the impact of one's footprint on our roto. And can you just explain a little bit more about that?
So that's guided by our environmental plan, which is He Mahere Taiao, which sits under Te Arawa Lakes Trust, and that's just captured all the values, aspirations and goals of our people for our taiao. And so that koira te tuapapa, that's the foundation of where I make my decisions from, or when looking through a consent application, does that align with our values? Does that align where we want to go? And a lot of the times, it never really does, because people that are applying for these consents aren't our people anyway.
That's quite interesting to note that Māori or hapu are not interested in having consents or structures on the lake, which means perhaps, or there could be an assumption that there's an inactivity or engagement.
Tell us a few things, that it's not our people that are residing around the lake shores. It's not our people that are living in those areas for a number of reasons. Yeah,
and so with that in mind, engaging or bringing our whānau to be active or more active on the lakes is a whole process in itself. And I really want to understand a little bit more about your view on why, on ngā kuraika, o wēnei momo moana, a parawhenua mea, a hine tui te repo, the whole water system. How does it all work? And how, actually, I want to know, how do you make sense of that momo taiao?
Ko taku whakaaro tuatahi ka hoki atu ki te kura, kia Auntie Kath. And I remember we had a session on why, or this part of our everyday learning at kura, and we were learning about and talking about te wai o roto i a koe. So when I think of why, it's not just an external thing, when we look out at Lake Rotorua, but it's an internal thing as well. And the way you treat the why internally is also the way you treat it externally. So it's about, caring about yourself and how you look after yourself as a reflection of how we care for our lakes and our rivers and our moana.
Yeah, me ua ua pea ka rongo na wēnei momo kōrero, e tēnā. You're brought up as a kura kaupapa graduate and a kohanga reo graduate, but also those learnings have guided you through your life. And living here in Te Arawa, how has that shaped the way that you look into the world?
Oh, I don't know anything different. That's all I know. Tēnei ao Māori oku, engari, me ka tika me mehe atu ki era iwi oku, kia tū whare toa, kei reira hoki, te roto o taupo, kia te ati haunui a Pāpārangi, te awa o Wanganui. So aha koa I tipu mai au konei, kei konei au e noho ana e mahi ana, definitely influenced as well by my other iwi, because they also have very strong water bodies, especially Te Aupatipu o Wanganui with the legal entity there as well.
Let's have a little bit of a kōrero about the legal personality of Whanganui River, and it's an example of when two worlds meet. You've got your old Māori view over here, and then you've got the legal view coming here, and what that interpretation of it is. It's the first time, I think, and it's not seen anywhere else around the world. It's only here. It's Te Urewera and Whanganui that are both legal personalities. And that means that they're treated as if they were a person.
Aye,
is that right?
Yeah, tika. Through legislation, In Te Ao Pākehā, they have human rights, just as you and I do. And then we were speaking earlier around the conflict the conflict in that he whakanui, he whakamana I ngā wai, i ngā ngahere o roto i te ao Pākehā, engari ki tō tātou ao Māori. E hara taku awa i te tangata. He hara taku maunga i te tangata, he tūpuna tērā,
He atua, he momo.
He atua, ai. E hara i te mea kei te taumata o rite.
He hara i te ira tangata.
Yeah.
He hara i te ira tangata.
Ai.
En hoinei pia te raru o te hono o ngā mea Pākehā ki ngā mea Māori.
Ai.
Ka kitea i tērā weheruatanga. You're right. For those who may not be able to understand te reo has just explained that a maunga or a river is not at the same level as a tangata, but they are similar in terms of your connectivity, because we can connect to the whole, to your environment, and the environment connects back to the physical representation of your environment. Hey, ko ngā wai o roto i te tinana he pēra ki ngā wai kei te kite i o moana, ko tō whare tangata tonu he pēra I wetahi wahanga o te ao e noho nei tātou. So, with that in mind, shifting the mindset of some people could be quite challenging when these two worldviews meet. How have you been going with that?
Tātou pai. E ni hara I te mea he whakaiti I ngā mahi o ku pakeke. Kei te kite I te hua o te whai I tērā ara o te legal personality mo tō mātou awa. Engari, tērā pia he kōrero noa I tērā kia whakamana, kia whakamaumahara hoki kia tātou, Kua pērā noa, we've done that so that it sits higher in te ao Pākehā, but let's not forget that in our world, our river isn't.
That's a conceptual way of looking at it as opposed to
we get
the
that
reality.
To fit, we're doing this to fit into their world, but let's not forget that in our world, it's not a person.
Haiwe nā momo kōrero. I runga no te mohi o mea matara. We need to be aware. And what's that word that your organisation says? Woke. Stay woke.
Consciously aware.
And all of these things. And remembering that our worlds will collide at some stage.
And they are.
Always.
Constantly.
So,
constantly.
A little bit with your mahi in terms of the consenting process. When, obviously, there's like cultural impact reports. There's
cultural impact assessments, all of that.
There's a whole lot of paperwork. That's the whole point of your mahi. It's to do with policy. For those who don't understand that process, can you explain a little bit more about that?
Well, pretty much it's just a whole lot of words on a whole lot of paper.
Engari, he kupu whai mana.
Ai, he kupu whai mana. What
like,
exactly should we talk about in that?
I think if we we've got 14 lakes here. And Te Papa Ahurewa will go through a range or consenting, or someone might put in a resource consent to say, I want to use, where are we now? We're in Kāramuramu, on the edge of Kāramuramu, Hannah's Bay. And I want to build a jetty or a wharf out here so that I can enjoy the lake.
I'll say no.
But
no, you can't.
But you would normally say no because there's no, you haven't been able to kind of tell or build a good enough case to be able to have that structure, right? So if you could you give us an example of what a good sort of consent would look like?
Good consent would look like taking in the values of he mahere tile prior to contacting us. Showing that you
do your research.
That you've done your rangahau, that you've read the policy. Show that you've contacted whānau and hapu as well. Because that's always something we always get a lot of people who just come to us and we want to know, what have the people said? It's
about making sure you build a relationship or have an established relationship with mana whenua. And thinking of the impact that it would have on their moana or lake bed in this case, if I'm going from a legal perspective. And then those whānau, or all these families or landowners who are putting in these consenting processes, I guess for them, it's easy enough to kind of say, make sure you contact the local marae, make sure you contact this person, but sometimes there's a bit of a bridge that's in between there. Is there another place that they could go to? Or another way of doing things is probably what I'm asking.
I think the main goal from the whole process is for them, is wanting them to understand that it's a privilege for you to be here and it's a privilege for you to have access to our lake. So whakamanahia te roto, whakamanahia ngā tangata whenua hoki o konei. Yeah, that's the main, well, for me the main goal is understanding that you don't have a right to our lake. You actually, it's an honour for you to...
There's an entitlement.
Yeah, because a lot of people through their applications, and because like I said, it's not our people who are applying, I always get the story of, we've been here for 5 generations now, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, and?
Been here for like at least 23.
Yeah.
Occupation of whenua and entitlement to whenua. And this is the whole purpose of this type of podcast, is to elevate to elevate our stories and our narratives from a te Arawa point of view, from a Māori point of view, that the world doesn't work within 2 generations.
Yeah.
There's a long line that happens from all the way up in Inui, all the way to even the future generations that are to come. Do you, when you're thinking of the mahi that you're in, what is, I know you have a process, you get up and you think of these things. Engari, ka tuki te ao, you're probably going to get a whole lot of challenges as well.
Yep.
How do you push past those challenges and those barriers?
Have a yarn with my workmates. Let it out in that area.
It's not an easy space to be in.
No, it's not. No.
Like you said, you're probably dealing with more people who are not tangata whenua.
Yeah.
Like you said, most of the consents are landowners who are residents who have been residents here for a very long time. For the residents who are coming into to try and get through this process, you must have come across somebody who was really good at giving a consent.
Yep, definitely have had the good people who communicate well, who've sent through drafts prior to submitting their applications, like kia ora, or he Pākehā, kia ora, can you please give me feedback, this is where I'm looking and this is how I've interpreted your guys' policy, am I on the right track? Yeah, like kōrero like that, and that's beautiful when we come across those applicants.
One thing that you can't argue with is the tile.
Yeah.
The tile impacts on every single individual and everyone around us, no matter what hapu, whānau, iwi, community, race you're part of. So when you're using kupu like me Māori, te noho, me whakaaro Māori, how would you explain that to someone who is non-Māori?
Pātai pai. I think kei tō ngākau tērā. But then again, how do you tell them that? Kei tō ngākau, bro.
Yeah, kei te tiko. If you have a love for the environment and yourself, like you've said earlier, then you'll only contribute further to the health and well-being of our roto moana, and just our environment in general, wherever you are. And this is where my next question is heading, is e mohe ana hau, tupu mai koe konei, ngari tupu mai koe ki kaitao. It's a hokoka. And
Heights.
Western Heights, and your upbringing up there, and then still being able to connect to the way, tāwhiri mātea, and all those momo atua. Hey, hiki a koe roto i tēnā. They talk about restoration of Māori in our lakes. What are your whakaaro around that with the mahi and the learnings that you've had from going to university and teaming up with people who have the same thought process as you as well, and some of the solutions too. There's so many issues and ways of looking at our lakes, but sometimes the solution is right here. And I look at you as an individual and I just think, wow, what you're doing now is just going to give so much impact to our whenua and our taio. What do you think about that?
Thanks. Thanks, Henny Brown. I like what you said earlier, how things are, like happen over generations. And that takes me back to one of my queer fourth one up. She, and I think, this is a generational thing. Like, I wasn't just born and then loved the taio. It's generational. It's in my whakapapa, it's in my toto. When I hear stories of my queer Nene Mina, she had that hononga to the taio, to our awa, Wanganui. Some of the stories, she would cradle the water as if it was a baby and she'd talk to it like that. And she installed a lot of aroha and a lot of that awareness into our people back home. I think it's...
Kei te kōrero tuakirita mātou.
I think my biggest gift to continue will be this pepe and many more pepe to come from myself.
Role modelling is huge. And you're talking about one tupuna, and obviously here in Te Arawa, and you living, and you've got your kāinga in Wanganui, tū wharetoa, and here, how do you maintain your connection to both here and there? And because for some, it can be quite difficult to maintain those identities, or do they streamline into one?
I think mine streamline into one. Well, the common theme with all of them is the love for the taio, so I put myself in those spaces and on all my iwi. But he hoki noa ki te marae, ki ngā tangihanga, ki ngā kaupapa o te wākainga. Put yourself out there. We're very fortunate down in Wanganui as we have the tirohoi waka. So it's our people, I think my iwi are very good at facilitating and hosting and running kaupapa to bring us back to. Just like Te Arawa is good here. He nui ngā kaupapa, e haere ana I konei, kia hoki mai ngā uri. You just have to be brave enough and courageous enough to show up.
Because that is a barrier for some. And that's what I want to talk to you about.
It is.
Maintaining, because getting in the door sometimes you can see a person go, I want to, but I don't. And
I'm scared. I'm from here, but I'm absolutely shitting myself.
So, you really have to be courageous and brave and pushing past your inhibition, I guess that's what that is. And what is your advice to those who are wanting to really reach out? I want to go to the marae, but somebody turned me off at the marae. Or I want to go to the hui, but I'm afraid of, and I know that these are barriers for people who are learning te reo. They're barriers for people who are not in that space or worried about what others think. And so do you have any whakaaro around ways of pushing through that?
I think if you can find that one other person to be there by you, or to hold your hand, or to be that positive voice, find that one person in your circle, you'll be alright.
You're right though, it only takes one. And drown out the rest of them. Drown out the rest, find that one person to lean on, to hold your hand and get in there. He tino tauira wenei, te rua mo te hunga e whakarongo mai ana. Kia kaha tonu rātou, kia mataara tonu rātou, I roto iwa rātou takatahinga I te ao. Hakua I tupu mai koe I hea ko te tuāpapa o ngā whakaaro ko te taio. Ko papa, ko rangi. Nā reira, hei whakamutu ake o tāua kōrero. Kia ha o kupu whakamutunga o tō hāki rāne ki te hunga e whakarongo mai ana ki o kōrero.
Kia haere roto I te aroha.
O, ka pai tēnā whirunga noi o ka puhu mahari e ko. Kia ora.
Kia ora, Henry Brown.